Well, I'm delighted to be here with Charles Bowles from Commercial Truck Trader. And Charles, what's your actual title at Commercial Truck Trader?
Commercial Director of Strategic Initiatives and OEM Partnerships.
Well, that's a mouthful.
Yeah,
but
I couldn't even say
you
it.
certainly do a lot for
Yeah.
Commercial Truck Trader.
Yes,
Got
indeed.
it. Well, I'm really excited to talk kind of big picture on what are the moving parts that are going to affect supply and vehicles.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, maybe we can start with tariffs. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still on everyone's lips. So what's your take?
Well, it's such a really complicated issue. From week to week, we're not actually certain what tariffs are applied to what or how they work. I know this, that we're seeing the manufacturers trying their best not to pass those off onto the consumers.
So far, we've seen that.
Yep.
That might change.
Well, we're not certain. It depends on how permanent these tariffs are. We got recent court rulings that kind of
Right.
unwound some of that
That's
stuff.
true.
But we're not sure exactly where that's going to go from here. So
Okay.
I'm not really confident that we know exactly what's going to happen with prices related to tariffs anytime soon.
Okay, well that instability is probably also causing people to pause.
Well, it is. We've seen a significant increase in replacement demand over the past 5 or 6 months, but we've seen it cool off a little bit recently. And
Okay.
And you and I talked about this off camera,
Yeah.
where we kind of seen a lot of replacement demand being satisfied.
Right, after the supply chain shocks and
Right.
whatever, and we've
Right.
seen that satisfy. And so where are we now?
Well, as we're here at Work Truck Week,
Yeah.
you and I are in the 8th day of the conflict with
Well,
Iran.
we certainly want to talk about that.
Right,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
that disruption is relatively significant as well,
Yeah.
because it affects fuel, it affects fertilizer, it affects aluminum, it affects chips, it affects so much.
So much more than just the price of fuel at the pump. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things, if you were in the farming vocation, and we're looking at a third of all the fertilizer goes through the Straits of Hormuz, and all of a sudden
A third of the fertilizers goes to the Straits of Hormuz.
that a third
Wow.
globally goes through it.
Wow.
And so what you could see is an impact in farming in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, which would then significantly increase the price of groceries. So there's a bunch of stuff.
I mean, I guess we're still in a holding pattern to see if that's going to play out like
Oh,
that.
fingers crossed. We're hoping this is a very, very quick conflict, and that things will get back to normal, and that the strait is not blocked. If all those things take place, then it's just going to be a relatively small blip, and we can get through it. But we've been through so many disruptions. You and I talked.
The black swan
Well,
is
you had-
our new black swan.
Well, you had COVID.
Right,
Back
yeah.
one of the
Yeah,
times we talked. I
right.
mean, and we dealt with COVID. We dealt
Yeah.
with supply chain issues.
Yeah.
We dealt with demand issues. We dealt with just inflation. All these things are just a challenge for this enormous industry. And gosh, I'm so glad we're so resilient.
Right, okay. So let's say we get through, let's say this conflict resolves itself in, let's say a few weeks, okay? So
Right.
we're getting back to the normalcy, whatever you call normalcy. We're looking still at the usual issues like housing starts
Oh, right.
and construction, stuff like that. How do you see
Absolutely.
that playing out?
Well, that's a really good point. This entire industry, the vocational industry, is heavily dependent on construction starts, particularly single family, multifamily, and small municipal programs. That's where you'll see a lot of the dealers around here effective one way or the other. And until we see housing prices settle down a little bit, inflation settle down, interest costs settle down, we're all really tense about the vocational industry.
Okay, so inflation is going to be a detriment to housing starts.
Absolutely.
It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And affordability has become a real issue in the housing market.
Yeah.
We're seeing some real innovators trying to build smaller, less expensive homes, and that's where the vocational industry can really take advantage of that. When we talk about the vocational industry and housing starts, we're talking about everything from landscape bodies to small dump bodies, not just the big construction and cement trucks and stuff like that, but the small stuff as well.
Yeah. Let me just get your big picture take. And again, assuming we can get through this crisis in the Middle East, assuming,
Please.
what does 2026, 2027 look like?
I think we've got a lot of positives, and we're seeing from the manufacturer. We saw, well, for instance, Ram yesterday, the announcement of bringing the ProMaster City back.
City, yeah.
anytime they're bringing new products into the market, and a lot of these manufacturers are, it's a sign that they're committed to a longer term, and we think these dealers are very resilient, and they're figuring out ways to continue to be profitable and help the consumers and help all their buyers. So I see the latter half of 26 being really the beginning of really coming out of this thing.
Okay, so we're going to go we're going to Commodus right that way, a little bit like that.
Well, you're an expert in this industry, you know too. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, the used car market, used truck market's looking okay.
Yeah.
Values are looking pretty good there.
Right.
Supply is coming back.
Yep.
I guess it's really just, can the economy not be shaky? Let's put it that way.
It's just all about consistency, whatever it takes.
Yeah, good. Well, Charles, thanks for
my friend. Thank
for
you
talking.
so much.
All right.